Okay, I'm gonna talk quick. It's only got 1%. I'm at the junkyard. Gonna do a rear disc conversion. I found an '03 Durango. It has a 9.25 rear end with 355 gears. Bigger rear end I'm getting, bigger brake instead of the drums. The brake back here, you just detach it here, and then you take the cables for the assembly. Okay, guys. I was at You Pull It. Hello. And I was trying to film what I was doing by taking this axle out. Phone died, okay? So here's my '02 Durango. Put in the Hemi swap in it. What I was at the junkyard and I had happened to see an '04 Dakota that had disc brakes in the rear, right? Because I've been wanting disc brakes, but these ones are drum. Do a conversion. You know, the other conversions were to pull the whole axle out, find certain Jeeps and stuff, and the spline count, stuff like that, to swap them out. Well, I just didn't want to do that. But I saw the '04 Dakota, right? And it had disc brakes. I was like, okay, I need to come back for that. So when I went back, I was also getting other parts, but I happened to see an '03 Durango. I think that was the last year they made Durangos, was the '03 of this style. And the '03 had discs in the back. So they had discs in the back, but they were bigger discs, bigger calipers than the '04 Durango had. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do this one, right? Also, the rear end is bigger, right? So this is, if you look at it, just by the shape, you can look up, differential, IDing differentials. This is the 9.25. It's a thicker tubing, thicker housing, more robust. And then I'm going to come down here to, so in here, I don't know if you can tell very good. And that is, see how more it's oval, right? That is an 8.25 rear end. And you can just tell, I don't know if you'll be able to tell from this video, the tube is smaller, less robust. So in the junkyard, I found there's a lot of these in the junkyard. So I looked at the '02 compared to the '03. A lot of this, all this brake line is the same, right? So, and then this is the brake line that attaches up onto the frame, I think is the frame. And then this part right there, that brake line goes to the front of the truck, right? That bracket is in the exact same place as this one is, right? So all the hose and all that stuff is the same. Has the same sensor here, right? So I just clipped it at the end just in case the wiring is a little bit different, but I clipped it there. So now if we go to the emergency brake. So on the e-brake, on the driver's side, on the frame rails, you have the bracketing, okay, which is here. All you do about, I don't know, I think it's about the passenger door, right there in the mid part of the passenger door, there's this bracket where you just kind of disconnect that from that half of the brake cable. You don't have to go all the way underneath the truck, right? I mean, take it all the way out from the pedal. Or, you don't have to do that. So it looks like, and I inspected it from the '02 Durango, which is similar to mine, which is the same as mine, to the '03 where I got this off of. The bracket's the exact same place, set up the exact same way, right? So the e-brake cable, obviously, where it attaches is going to be different because drum and disc they set up a little bit different. So, see, it's black. I just scrubbed it, brake cleaned it, soap water scrub, and then just sprayed it. I'm not too worried about it sticking like perfect, just to make it freshen it up a little bit. But anyway, so all of it came attached, right? So it's all on there. So what I'm thinking is I just have to put it in, set it in. The only thing that I can say that may not, I don't know if it'll fit or not, is where the U-bolts connect into the leaf springs. But I mean, everything on this vehicle was pretty much the same, except for the rear end, obviously. So I hope everything just bolts right up. You know, you just take it out, put it in. You have discs. I bought some new pads. The discs themselves look good. So yeah, there's no leaks in the hoses or any of the hoses at all before I took it off. So that is what I'm doing with this. I'm going to change the fluid here in a little bit, but yeah, I think that's a good way. You get a beefier. Oh, here's another thing too, is you have to make sure that it's 355 gearing, because in the front of the Durango, the front differentials are 35, tag 35, and this is 35. So that means it's the 355 gearing. So we've got to make sure they're both the same, and they are. And yeah, it's a lot meatier for sure. So there we go, right there. That's a second Hemi motor that I got for cheap that I'm going to rebuild and sell. And then there's my other one waiting back from the custom oil pan from Mylodon. They're redesigning their four-wheel drive Hemi swaps for these in Dakotas, because the other ones just didn't fit well. So hopefully with my measure, what I've given them, it makes the swaps easy without having to cut any differentials. So the front diff, there it is. When I start putting it in, I'll let you guys videos. I mean, the installation and removal isn't going to be too hard. You just release U-bolts and shocks and sway bar, and it kind of all comes out. You know what I mean? Oh, and then the drive line too. But I will show you guys like the brake cable. Well, I'll show you just hopefully the brake cable and all that stuff is going, the length and all that stuff is good. So anyway, there we go. I'll see you guys on the next video for this. Okay, so I was going to show you how I did the brakes, but just pretty much you take this off. Got a 21-inch here. Takes off the whole brace, and the caliper is this 10. Take that off, and then you gotta kind of wiggle this out, because inside here's like a drum brakes, and these were the old ones. And then there's a spring that goes along the front, the back, the front. And there's little pins you gotta push in, unclip. Just put them in and just figure out how to get them back in. I hate doing brake shoes, hate it. But at least now these are going to be the e-brakes. So, all right guys, so here's the e-brake that I'm taking off. So the e-brake, the two cables, this one goes to the driver's side drum. This one goes all the way to the passenger side today. So, but if you look at this, the bracket from here this way, it's the same as the discs and the drums, right? So I'll bolt this bracket here, which these are 13s here and 2 there. And then I just, when that's loose, I kind of just slip that out. And then I'll take a little screwdriver here and I just pull back that pin up. Maybe a little smaller screwdriver, but you just pull that little indention back. So I'm not ready to do that yet, but you pull that little indention back, and then you'll be able to slide this there and out. But that little tab right there is pushed in, so you can't slide the cable back and out. So you just pull that tab out this way, so you can slide it out. But first start here, then here, then here. And then all this mechanism from this bracket this way's the same. So when I swap out the rear end, all I got to do is pull it up, because on the rear end, on the 9.25 rear end, or 9.25 rear end, all I got to do is I have everything up to here. Everything up to here from that rear end. So I got to do is bolt that rear end in, pull the cables over here, attach it, bolt it in, and it's done. Okay. Now as far as brake lines, see right there, this bracket is exactly the same. And that is a 12. So I'll just take the 12 wrench, I'll loosen that up, and then take the bracket off. I think that's a 13 as well, that nut. And then all the hoses are, all the brake lines from here there is pretty much, that bracket's the same position from what I was able to tell when I took it off. Okay. We have this sensor here. It looks like it's the same, 2 wires. The only thing that I do not know, and I tried measuring it and it seems the same, is the center of the axle to here, to make sure that the drive shafts are the same, or at least to the center mounting point on here to there, if it's the same distance, right, from here to here, because if not, then I guess I have to change. That's gonna suck, because then I have to change the drive shaft, and my plan isn't gonna go the plan isn't gonna go good. All right, so, and of course, you just take off the shock here, and right here you have sway bar. You just disconnect that. Shock, sway bar, and then I would go and loosen that up while everything is still secured in here. And then the last thing I would do is, second to last, take the U-bolts off, loosen those up, and then up in here, I would take, this is how I did it in the junkyard, take this bolt out, and then I let the leaf spring lay down like this, and then I just roll it out, down like that, and then I roll the other one in. The other one I'm gonna have on a little cart. I'll show you guys what I'm gonna do with that, but yeah. So that's kind of the steps I'm gonna take to do it. It's a lot easier when you got an impact than in the junkyard doing everything by hand, because like those bolts that are meant to be torqued down tight, those are rough. Okay, that's the plan. And then when I get to a sticking point or something I feel like I need to talk to, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna try to do this all by myself, which it's pretty tough. So, okay, so on this bracket, you didn't even need to take it off of this. You can just pull it after you lift that little tab. See, it's lifted. You just slide it out without taking that off. I also forgot too, is there's a little hanger right there that goes for that. You can take that off there. There you go. All right, so got the rear end out. Yeah, just kind of at the end, I let the leaf spring goes, and just boom. I tried to have them on 2 jacks, but it just rolled right off. Anyway, taking the drive shaft off was a little tough because it was stuck. And then I didn't want to pull it out from the transmission because it's kind of like it slides in and out. I'm trying not to pull it out, but I got it. Just got a little screwdriver here, this big one. And there were some like little tabs. You kind of softly bang, 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 and then bang, bang. And it kind of loosened it a little bit. And then it comes off. Yeah, so I'm gonna just sell this. Nothing's wrong with it. Perfectly fine. The drum brakes, like 5,000 miles on them, if that. But it has been sitting here for a year. But it's got everything on it, all the brake lines. e-brake cable attachment. So now it's time to put that bad boy on. I don't know, let's see if we can tell the difference of how big it is. See, this is the 8.25. And then over here, you have the 9.25. Let's see. Get it up. Quite, you can just see like right here, quite bigger. The shadow's kind of messing it up a little bit. But yeah, you can definitely tell the casing is definitely thicker. Tubing is thicker. Let's see, watch. Let's look in the back here. Yeah. See all this? You know, that bracing was like this, and bigger housing for sure than the tube. I mean, look. That. Huge difference in size. I mean, you walk up to it, I mean, huge. And you can see all that. A lot bigger. I believe this is like a 31 spline. And that's like a 27 spline. So definitely the axle itself is definitely thicker. It's too. So now I got to try to figure out how to, I'm going to use this. I'm going to roll this down here. I'm going to clear all this out. Get this damn thing out of the way. Figure out where I'm going to put it. I'm going to use this dolly. I'm going to stick the pumpkin part here and then let the wheels hang off. I'm going to wheel it down, slide it under there, and then use jacks to lower it down on the ground. And then we'll go ahead and start lifting up the leaf springs. We'll get the shocks, because the shocks have to be on this side of the diff. So if you can see, I don't know, I have a big glare, so I don't know if you guys can see or not. But the shocks, so I'll have to make sure they're over here when I roll it under, and then bring them back with the sway bar, because they need to be on this side. So hopefully it'll have enough clearance. If I get it far enough back, pop them down. Yep, let's do it. Everything should bolt right up, you know, to the actual engine side. I mean, to the truck side, sorry. See, this flange looks very similar to this one. And I do hope, which should be, exact same size, yeah. So, yeah, length is just a big deal. All right, well, I'm gonna go ahead and get this loaded up on the cart, and I'll show you. Get this one. Try to get this one loaded up into the back of the truck, I think. I'm gonna try to sell it. All right, so I got the new end here. My mom was controlling the cart, controlling the thing. We're just gonna roll it up, put it right into there, then take it off, and then use the jacks to kind of get it in there. Hey, what do you want, Nasa? Oh, of course. All right, guys, so I got it in there. Man, my mom had to help me. I mean, she couldn't really lift anything, but she helped to keep the balance. Ended up having to use this little cart to get it in. Fell a couple times. Scratched up some of the rotors on the edge, but I think they'll be okay. This just hopefully the bottom edge of the pan didn't bend, and hopefully when I put fluid in it, hopefully there's no leaks. I got the sway bar and the shocks on the correct side. So had to lift them up where my mom stuck jacks under and lift that end up. And then my mama stuck the jacks under there. So now I got to do is just kind of lift the leaf springs up, get the leaf springs mounted in, put the bolt in and the pins in here. Okay. And then from there I can, when I get those up, then I can get the I don't think you guys can see it. The sun is creating some weird shadows. So let's see. going on. I can't. Damn. So it's got to line up. Dang it. I don't know if you guys can see it, but my phone isn't letting you guys see it. Oh, there it goes. Tap the screen, get the picture fixed. Okay, so I got to make that up with that. Okay, but first I'm gonna get the leaf springs lifted up. Yeah, see down here, I did bend it a little bit, and I hope I'll snug those a little bit more, but like a little touch, and then so hopefully it doesn't leak, man. I'll be pissed. But so I'm gonna get those up, get that lined up, get the U-bolts in. Start with there. I think that's the main structure. Bigger rear end. Let's go. All right, so this rear end swap. So since the diameter of the tube is bigger, okay, it's bigger, you have to, when you're at the junkyard getting it, you have to get the U-bolts off of those and the bracket, the plate, okay? So this is the plate that's off of mine, right? So if you look, I guess they would fit, but barely, right? They barely fit. And then these ones, I guess the same. They're the same brackets. Huh. I thought they were different. But yeah, so I guess they're the same. I guess you don't, but you do have to get the U-bolts. You don't necessarily have to get the bracket, I guess. But the U-bolts for sure. So, the bracket, not so much. I think I'm gonna use mine. That was a little corroded. I'll use my old one then. But yeah, you should get the U-bolts. The nuts are the same as the old nut thread pitch. So, or you can get the new ones. It's up to you. But all right, I'm gonna go ahead and start hooking up the U-bolts on this. I already got the pin in on the bolt in on the what do you call that, leaf spring. I just use a jack, got it up and put it in there. Now I gotta, if you look right there, I gotta center that pin in the hole. Once I do that, then I can start mounting up this. Okay, so I got everything bolted in hand tight where everything's gonna go. It looks like all the cables and wires, all that stuff's gonna work. I still have to get those lines and those brackets on the other side. But right now I'm going to, this is the thing that I was not sure of. Was the drive shaft. Hold on. Let me get my Loctite. All right, so let's see. Let me see if I can get this up there first. I want the Loctite dripping everywhere. Hey. Huh. Perfect. And I'm happy. Make sure that's lined up. Just don't want to tighten it down. If I can just tap in some of the corners. me run the bolts through. It fits, man. I'm really happy. Really happy. Now I just got to run the bolts in with some blue Loctite. And I got to paint under here. Not a big deal. And then that's it. The painting doesn't need to happen, but I guess I'll make it match the rest of it. I couldn't get under it when it was on the jack stands. But yeah, man, I'm gonna go ahead and tighten up all the bolts, torque them down, use Loctite on the suspension bolts, and then I'll show you when I hook up the e-brake cable and then the brake line bracket over there, just to show you that it all fits. And then I just got to plug in the sensor there, and that's about it. And I'll show you all that when I'm done. Well, I'll show you the process of that. Okay, so this is the truck side emergency brake cable, right? So this is my original one that came off that had the emergency brakes for the 8 1/4 rear end. And so this right here is emergency brake setup for the 9 1/4 rear end, which is exactly the same. The only thing I can see different is that little foam. This little foam thing is round on the 8 1/4, and this one's square. But all this and this looks the same. And it may or may not be longer, but the thing is I can also adjust it right there, because I did loosen a little bit at the junkyard so that I had more play to fit it in. Because let's see, because that's the bracket right there, the same as the original truck, the original Durango bracket, right? So it's the same one there. And as it bolts up, see, it's a little bit long, but I think I can adjust it out of that, the length out of that, and I believe it'll work. And that connects to that. Doop. So let me get it all started up and see if I can get all the cables to attach, and then I'll bolt the bracket up. Okay, so, which is very easy. I just connected this one, but now as you can see in there, see the bolts off. So now what I gotta do is adjust this, because I need to make the cable longer. So if I make this longer, I'll be able to get that back and tightened up there. So let me do that. Let me loosen this up this way to see if that works. Okay, so I had to extend this quite a bit. I mean, probably like that much. Suggestion: use penetrating lube. Man, this thing gets kind of rusted out and it gets tough. So I use this on that side to hold, and then I just use like a ratchet wrench and a 13, and then I just kept testing it, putting it on, testing it, and seeing how close this plate gets to there. You know, I think it's good enough. I can probably tighten it up. So I'm gonna go ahead and stick the bolts in. This bolt lines up pretty, whoops, where are you at? Oh, right there. This bolt lines up even. It quite doesn't sit against here. Maybe like, I don't know. I'd probably say like less than a 1/4 inch, definitely. Some space, but if I can tighten it, I feel like it'll preset the load on there. I don't know, but I'll have to test it when I can able to drive it, or be able to pull the brake and see what happens. Okay, so I tried loosening this enough to where this plate sits flush, but it leaves this too slack. So I tightened it down, connected all the cables, and then I put the bracket up, and see, it's like a fingertip width until then. And so what I'm going to try now is I already got the threads started, is I'm going to tighten this down and then get this one to line up, and then that should pull back on the tension on this, and then we can see if the emergency brake works for this or not. So I'm going to try to tighten those, but I just wanted to kind of show you if it works. That's the gap I'm leaving. That's the gap that I'm keeping there to be able to get this to tighten. So I tightened that up, shortened everything. So I'm gonna tighten that up. Okay. So this is what it's about with experimenting with this stuff, right? Okay, so if you look, this is the one that's off of my Durango. This is how this is set up. It was set up backwards than what that one is, right? Because that one's set up like that, with that latch there. This one's set up with this latch that connects into there. So that was different. So I thought, man, well, maybe these cables are just different lengths. But so last video we talked about, you know, well, in this video you'll see how we adjusted this, right? I adjusted it probably all the way out to about here, okay? That was just too loose, okay? Wasn't gonna work. And then, so I tightened it back up to probably about right there. Still too loose because I was trying to keep this flush, right? And then I tightened it up enough to where there was like a fingertip gap, right? It's just a gap. Probably like a 1/4 inch gap, right? I probably said like a gap that was probably as thick as the bolts that go in there. Then still too loose, because after I hooked it up, after I tightened it up, then I hooked it up, I went into the truck, hit the e-brake, and it felt firm when you pushed the e-brake, but it didn't feel like the e-brake normally feels like, you know, like has some pretty good resistance to it. It's like, okay. So what I did is I tightened it back up to the original spot that it was at, because I originally thought, well, it's too tight because I can't get the plate to flush here, right? So what I did is I tightened it up just enough to where, I mean, this plate was probably like max distance to where I could only grab like 2-3 threads in. I mean, there was a huge gap between the body mount here and this plate, enough to where I can just grab. And then I just tightened it down, and then now it has quite a bit of tension. So I probably didn't even need to loosen this at all. But that's just part of experimenting with this stuff, right? And then being a little bit inexperienced with doing this, right? You know, I just kept the tension in there, tightened it down. So now I went to go hit the e-brake, and now it's firm, okay? The only thing I don't know yet is this preload on it. Too much of a preload. Is it engaging the brakes? I doubt it, but when I jack the car up, I'll check it out and see if they spin, because I got to jack it up for other stuff. But okay, so now this bracket here, I got to install this one too. But I'm gonna have to take this tire off, so I won't do that. But that should just mount up in the same hole, no problem. So I'm gonna leave it there. I'm gonna finish putting the bolts on. That's it. But that's how I did the e-brake. I don't know how well it's gonna engage, and I wish you can just I wish they just have a long enough a socket that you can just stick over the top and tighten. Also too, I guess you could cut this off, you know what I'm saying? And then just stick it on there and tighten it up until, I mean, you could do that too, I guess. Get a a deep socket, and then you just cut this off and then tighten it down all the way after you get it all installed. I guess you could do it that way. But anyway, it's all in. Don't forget to push that tab in. Okay, so on this axle swap, or this rear differential swap, this right here is the 9.25 side of the axle. This right here is the Durango side, with my original truck side. So all I did is take this bracket from the junkyard and see it's the same thing. It's gonna fit right here, and then that will, oops, sorry, right here, and then that will just bolt right in. I mean, it'll just screw right in, and that right there will be the brake system. I mean, that's how you connect it, using the same bracket. I have my tank out, so because I'm doing the Hemi swap and I had to modify a pump, so yeah, so I got plenty of room. So you'll probably have to come from the back end this way to do it, but yeah, so I'll just bolt that in right there, and then bolt that into the frame, and then screw in the line and tighten it up, and that should be it. So I'll let you guys know when I'm done. Okay, guys, there were some things that were messed up on the video. Towards the end of the video, when I was editing, I'm trying to get it onto YouTube. So I lost the video, or well, the phone kept dying, and so couldn't get to the last part. On that last part of the brake line, where the bracket is what you're going to want to do. I know in the video I said put the bracket on first. What you're going to do is have the bracket on loose, take the bracket off, or keep the bracket off, and then put in the brake line nut first into the fitting, so that when you put it on, it's already there. Because if you try to put the brake line on after you put the bracket on, the brake line's a little bit too long, so you're not going to be able to fit it in there into the fitting. So take it off, start it screwing it in the fitting, put the bracket on, and then finish tightening your line. And that's pretty much it. And I wanted to kind of address some of the, I posted some stuff on Facebook in the groups for Dakotas and stuff like that. And some people had questions like, oh, I want to do that swap, and other people were asking, can this fit this, fit this? Now, I don't know all of it, how specific it is. Some people were saying like some of the two-wheel drive or four-wheel drive Dakotas, the axle is on different, either on top or below the spring. The 04 Dakota I saw in the junkyard that I was originally going to take use for the disc brake conversion was off of an 04 four-wheel drive, and that one the axle was on top of the springs, but the passenger side shock was in front of the axle on one side, and then on the back of the axle on the other side, on the driver's side. So there is some variances between the Dakota and the Durangos. So you might have to get the shackle plates different, those types of things. And also too is using the 04 Dakota compared to the 03 Durango's rear end is that Dakota specifically had an 8.25 rear end, but it had discs. But the discs and the caliper were smaller than the 03 Durango with the 9.25 rear end. Those ones had bigger discs and bigger calipers. I was like, I'm just going to go with that because obviously the Durango is heavier than the Dakota, so I'd rather have the bigger brakes. So on that, and I'm going to be posting more videos about my whole Hemi swap, all these things that I have done, try to figure out for myself, just learning, a lot of things just doing for the first time. Like a couple of specific things I know a lot of you guys might be interested in is oil pans, right? Mylodon says that they have an oil pan that works, but it doesn't, so I'm collaborating with them by cutting the oil pan. I cut the oil pan to fit. It should be able to have the engine sit at a 3-degree tilt. And then I also have some motor mounts that I'm gonna have someone here in town, in my town, be able to fab them up. So if you guys want some, just let me know. When I'll post it when we're ready to start making them. And like I said, it'll sit the engine at a 3-degree tilt. Set everything pretty much almost factory how the five the 5.9 was, or the 4.7, whatever you have in there. But I'll post videos on all that stuff, how I went through my process to figuring it out. Yeah, so subscribe if you guys want some more, kind of some updates. I don't know how fast the updates are going to be coming, but I got to finish projects first to kind of let you guys know from beginning to end. Or maybe I'll just split them up in episodes on those specific projects. But all right, guys, see you guys later.